Hello everyone. Today we're joined by Leyla El-Ashry, who received a
Hello.
Master of Divinity from Harvard and
That's right.
also a bachelor's in philosophy from the American University in Cairo. So today we'll just be chatting about some of her key areas of interest. So
Yes.
first of all, could you explain what got you interested in philosophy?
Okay, that's a great question actually. So I did international baccalaureate, so IB.
Mhm.
And when I was doing IB, we had to do TOK, which is theory of knowledge.
Right.
And it was one of the subjects that you had to take. And I think that kind of sparked my interest in it.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then, I had to decide what to study at university. And I think I must have taken like philosophy 101, right? Or like something like that. Like I took
Okay. Yeah.
the basic philosophy course, and I just really loved it. There wasn't anything to it. It was just, I was really drawn to it. It spoke to me, and yeah, and then I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And yeah, and I just,
Okay.
I started studying
Yeah.
philosophy. Yeah. And it
Nice.
was continental philosophy. So at university we did
Oh,
continental philosophy. Yeah, and like the history of ideas. There wasn't analytical philosophy. Um, we didn't do that, which I guess was good because I don't know
mm,
if I would have enjoyed
yeah.
it.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's
So I've
it really.
noticed that you've done a lot of research into like philosophy of religion in particular. So I wanted to
Yes.
ask, what do you see as the strongest contemporary objection to classical proofs for God's existence, like the ontological or cosmological arguments?
Oh my God, that's a really wait, can you rephrase that question? Because I'm like, wait, what did he say?
Yeah, what do you see as the strongest contemporary objection to classical proofs for God's existence, like the ontological or cosmological arguments?
Honestly, I think it's quite basic, and I don't know if this is really going to answer your question, but I think
Okay,
that on a
yeah,
very basic level, on a very you know, basic human level, I think that people struggle with the fact that the things that you cannot, or what people perceive to be visible or not visible are not real.
mhm,
And I think that's where people struggle in terms of like understanding or connecting with like spirituality and religion. I think
yeah,
that's one of the biggest obstacles to it, you know?
yeah,
But yeah, I still study now. You know what I mean? Like I'm still studying now, even though I'm not
mhm,
actually like doing a PhD or anything. I'm still like a student of
yeah.
religion.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know
So
if
do you
that
think,
answered your question,
yeah,
but
I guess it sort of answers it. So, like, do you think this is to blame on science, perhaps? And people think that empirical evidence is the
yes.
only way forward to gain knowledge, and this
Yeah,
hinders
I
other ways of gaining knowledge, such as faith, intuition.
absolutely. And you know what I also think with like the birth of like AI? I mean, it's not the birth, AI has been around for a
Hmm.
while,
Yeah,
but like the fact that we're using it so extensively now, I think a lot of it is about accessing information, trying to find like the easiest way to access information and to get answers to questions that are, so seemingly so like out of reach. And I think that's one of the
yeah,
biggest issues that people have with religion, or like studying religion and like philosophy of religion, or spirituality. It's because it's like you can't you can't it you can't reach it, right?
hmm,
You can't access it in a way that you would want to. And so I think that's why a lot of people kind of turn away from it or reject it, or they're just not interested in it. Whereas like, AI is amazing because you can just ask it anything and you get, your information is right there, right? You don't have
mm,
to do
yeah,
much.
yes,
You don't have to do much work. So
mm, makes
don't
sense.
know if that, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Another key challenge to religious belief is like the problem of evil. So, like in your opinion,
Evil.
do you think the problem of evil undermines theistic belief more effectively today amid global suffering, or do you think there are certain theodicies that do definitively defeat it?
Hmm. Okay, let's break down this. That's a loaded question. That's like give me
Yeah,
the first part. I have to like break things down. So give me the first part
yeah,
of the question. Let's answer that part.
yeah. Does the problem of evil undermine theistic belief more effectively today amid global suffering?
Hmm. That's a good that's a good question. That's a very good question. I think that's something that most people struggle with when it comes to religion or like believing in a higher being is actually that's one of the biggest challenges. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's like the question that everyone asks themselves, right? It's like, oh, how can there be a God if there's suffering?
Yeah.
Right? Or like, how can there be a greater being if there's evil in the world, right? But I think it's one of those situations where the truth is in the contradiction, right? So the truth can be found in contradictions because they're not actually contradictions, right? And at the end of the day, it's like in order to have one, you have to have the other. In order for me to know what good is, I have to know what bad is. Because if I don't know what
Mhm.
bad is, then I can't know what good is, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I think that's something that people need to think about. And I mean, probably it probably does undermine it. It probably does, but I think that people, a lot of the times we kind of, like I said, when things are whatever is easier, we tend to grasp like for whatever is easier, right? Um, and so I think it's easier to just say, oh, for example, oh, there's nothing, there's no God, because how could there be a God if there's evil in the world and people are suffering, right?
Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
Does that answer your
So,
question? I don't
yeah,
know,
yeah, it does.
kind of
So
tangentially.
would you say that's the strongest like counter to the problem of evil? That like in order to appreciate good, there must be like a degree of evil that we can compare it with?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And at the end of the day, where does like evil is not it's not external to us,
Hmm.
right? Like it comes from if we think that, in a lot of religions, the idea is that the ego, right? Our ego is actually what is evil, right?
Right. Yes.
And so in order for you to attain or obtain enlightenment, right? We see this in Buddhism, right? In order to obtain enlightenment, you have to destroy or annihilate
Mm,
the ego, right? You see it in
right.
Buddhism, you see it in like Islam, you see it in, right? Um, so actually like evil is just something it's within us, right? The devil or like or however you want to call it, like this concept of the devil or right, that's something that's within us and that we have to work on ourselves to defeat,
Mm,
right? It's
yeah.
not like there's not an external devil that comes like that's my theory, and that's a
Mm,
theory that I think
yeah.
a lot of like religions hold.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you think this theory could extend also to like natural evils, which are independent of human behavior? Like think like a tsunami that ends up killing a lot of people. Like I'd say that's considered evil, but it's not directly caused by human sin.
That's a really good question actually. Which I wasn't when I was thinking about evil, like I guess I made it very much like human centered. But
Mm,
I don't think that we can consider natural disasters as evil.
mm,
You know what I mean? Because there's no intention of evil,
mm,
right?
true.
Right? Like I feel like
Mm,
evil is something that we created as humans because of our intention to do bad
yeah,
things, right? Like to put
yeah.
it very simply, like, right? Or if we
Mm,
act like selfishly, or if we act, like, oh, egoistically, or if we do certain things, that comes from us, right? But things like
mm,
a natural disaster, which, well, it could be argued that also comes from us because of like global warming and et cetera, et cetera.
mm,
But yeah. So you could actually argue that also comes from humans.
yeah,
You
right.
know,
Okay.
you know what
And I
I
guess
mean?
evil is at its core like a human construct. So
Right.
it does like come from humans in that technical
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. Have you,
Hmm.
Benjamin, have you studied like religions?
Yeah, I study it at school for my A-level course.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm like interview. I'm asking you, but like, what do you
Yeah,
like? What are you studying? What have you
we
been
mainly
studying?
focus on like Christian theology,
Okay.
but for
Yeah.
GCSE, we also looked at Buddhism alongside Christianity as like our two
Buddhism?
main, yeah,
Oh, interesting. Okay. Like a side by side.
yeah, like studying them separately.
Okay. And did you, and were you, was there any like have you drawn any parallels between the two?
Um,
Was there
yes, but
anything that you felt like overlapped or like any concepts that you felt overlapped?
I think a lot of the ethical teachings overlap. Like there's a big
Okay.
focus on like compassion and love in both religions, but I
True.
guess like their metaphysics are quite different. Like
Hmm.
maybe the most different that you could think of. So yeah, but I think at its core, a lot of religions share like the same moral themes, but maybe not the same
Yeah.
like stories about like the universe or God.
Okay. Like creation stories, like
Yeah,
creation myths or like,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Have you ever heard of perennial philosophy? That's something that I'm really into.
yeah. Is it the idea that
Okay.
all religions are like different paths up the same mountain and they sort of all
Exactly.
have the same degree of truth?
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's something that I developed like it's so funny because I did my master's I was at Harvard, I was doing my master's. And I kind of went a bit everywhere with it. Like it was
Okay.
strange. I don't know. Like I did like Buddhism or I did you know what I mean? I did Hinduism, then I did Islam, then I did like it was a strange path because I think I didn't really know where I was going, but then it led me. It was interesting because then it actually led me to perennial philosophy.
Hmm.
And it that opened up a world for me that
Okay.
I'm so
Right.
passionate about. And I'm like still reading now. Like I have all my books here. Like Henry Corbin is like my favorite like thinker, philosopher.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so that's why I was asking about if you had like read
Yeah.
any on perennial
I
philosophy.
think
Yeah.
William James maybe is sort of perennial philosophy, and I'm like
Yeah, sort of.
somewhat familiar with his views.
Okay. Well, you still have time, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Mm.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. What would you say is the strongest argument then for perennial philosophy?
I mean, you know what, it's like what you said, right? It's like if you are able to, because the key to perennial philosophy, right, is to look at like the esoteric meaning behind text, right?
Hmm.
And in particular behind symbols,
Hmm.
right? So not so much like looking at parables, or even though parables are in themselves symbols, right? But it's not looking at them on that level. It's really looking at the symbols that you will find in all different like religious traditions,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And they are like translated, right, into like they all have their own,
Hmm.
maybe they have a different name, right, but it's incredible once you notice that they're all connected, right, and that you can connect them through symbols, and that each of these symbol has its own like it has its own meaning, its own world. I think that's the strongest argument for why for perennial philosophy is
Hmm.
that you're able to connect every single one, right? And you can
Right.
connect it like through time. I mean, you could go back to like the Zoroastrians, right? And you can connect Zoroastrianism with like a symbol there to a symbol in, Buddhism, right? Or in Islam, for example,
Hmm.
which a lot of people wouldn't think,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's
I
like it's
guess
all
like
connected.
yeah. I guess my immediate rejoinder to that is that would you say maybe like these symbols reflect more about shared features in human psychology and culture as opposed to like shared universal truths about like the universe and God. Because like Carl Jung, the psychoanalyst, also wrote a lot about
Yep,
like shared symbols between societies and what they said about like the collective unconscious
that's
and
right.
like approaches to anthropology like Claude Levi-Strauss's structural anthropology suggests that all cultures share like similar structures, especially in like kinship rituals or whatever.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
maybe cultural similarities between religions say more about us as humans as opposed to like some underlying metaphysical truth. So like what would be a response to that?
I think it's both.
Okay.
Like, I think, um, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's both. I think they all lead, and I think this is just a very simplistic way of answering it, but they just all lead back to
Hmm.
a primordial like truth, right? And I think that's the key. Like, I think that's the point, right?
Right.
In the sense that that's the point of most religions, right? What's the point of it? The point is to lead you back to the source, right? To lead you back to your truth with a capital T, right?
Mm.
Meaning God or whoever or whatever, you know, word name you want to give to that entity, right? Which essentially is your true essence, right? It's the essence of you. And that's the key of all these traditions, all these
Mm.
religions, all these right paths is that, right? So I do think it's also, I mean, I guess it's also cultural. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
Mm.
so I went on a tangent. Sorry, I have a bit of
Yeah, I
ADHD.
think I agree with your idea.
I have a lot of ADHD.
I do think it's both. I think if I remember correctly, in Hinduism, there's also this idea of like the idea that your soul, like the Atman, is like Brahman, like the underlying universe itself, and like the ultimate realization is understanding that you yourself are sort of like this divine entity,
That's
and
right.
so therefore human
Yeah,
culture becomes like this higher
yeah,
being itself.
yeah, 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 yeah. And like, you know, a lot of philosophers were called like heretics, right? For
Mm, yeah.
having like Giordano Bruno, right? Like for having these ideas, right? Like there's this Hallaj. I don't know if you've heard of Hallaj, but he's a mystic, philosopher mystic, and he said, "I am the truth." He said, "I am the truth. I am God," right?
Okay. Yeah.
And that was considered like, I mean, you could not say something like that, right? You could not
Mm,
declare, you know, I am
yeah.
the truth, but it's because he had obtained this realization, right?
Mm,
Um, you know, and it was the same thing with Buddha when he was under the, you know, the
yeah.
right, like under the tree. That was the realization that he had was he's like, oh, I am, right? I embody this higher being, right?
Mm,
That
yeah.
and that's how you obtain
Yes.
enlightenment. Yeah,
I think this is true for a lot of religious experiences in general, like maybe in
yeah,
particular mystical experiences where there's
yeah.
often documented to be a sense of unity with like God and like a complete dissolution of like oneself in like
Abs
the larger universe itself. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the like the annihilation of the
Yeah.
ego,
Mhm.
right? And it has like different
Yes.
terms and like different you know, religious study. But yeah, it has, you know, in Arabic it's fana, which is like the annihilation of your ego, and then it's, you know, your obtained union, right? So like in
Mm,
Islam, you might say like union with God, or like in Islamic mysticism, right? But yeah, and that's something that fascinates me, and that's something that if I were to return, which sometimes I think about it, like returning to like do a PhD, I would probably focus on that concept. So like theophanic
okay.
visions, or like the actual experience, so the phenomenology, right? Like the
Mm,
experience that people have, right?
Mm,
of God, right? Because it fascinates me. Like
yeah.
across traditions, I think it's fascinating. So we look at like the mystics, the saints, right? Like the Christian saints, um,
Mm,
from Joan of Arc, right? From Joan of Arc to
right.
like
Yeah.
Saint Catherine of Siena, or like it's really fascinating.
Mm.
And
So I
how,
guess
yeah,
like these cross-cultural similarities between different documentations of religious experience, could this also add to like the perennial philosophy argument?
I
Because
think
if people
so.
are all experiencing God in similar ways, then surely like they're experiencing the same thing.
I believe so. And I believe that what happens, from what I understand, is that when a person has that experience, is that everything makes sense, right? It's
Mm,
almost like all the connections are clear, right? Now, I think it can also be argued that certain mystical experiences happen through different religious schools. So, for example, like the way that, let's take Catherine of Siena, right? So she's
yeah.
like Catholic nun. Like her experience of God, how was that different to, like, I don't know, let's take Rumi, right? Famous Rumi. Okay, like how was his experience of God, right? Because he experienced God through Shams Tabriz, right? Who was his, like, basically his imam, his sheikh, right?
Mm,
Um, and so that's something else, right? Because it's like, oh,
right.
that's experiencing God through someone,
Mm,
right? Whereas Catherine of Siena, well, I'm not sure how, it almost like it just happened to her, right? Um, and then you have people who experience God through dreams,
right.
right? Um, right, or meditation, right? Because I mean, also like in Buddhism, or not just in Buddhism, a lot of focus is on like meditating, right? Like
Hmm.
if you're able to still your mind, right? If you're able to still your mind, that's the way in which you're going to obtain enlightenment, right? It's like through a certain way of, like, of being, and of thinking, and of almost like controlling the way in which your mind
Hmm.
works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know if maybe I'm just kind of rambling on, but I'm also
No, no. Yeah.
thinking as I'm speaking, that I wonder if, there are different, like in Kabbalah, there's like different paths, right?
Hmm.
There's different paths to obtaining this unity, right? So
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if that answers the
Mm.
question, but
No, it's good. Um, so what
sorry,
would
I'm
you
gonna
say
take a
is like
sip of
a,
my coffee.
yeah, sure. What would you say is a possible objection then to perennial philosophy that you think is like the strongest objection?
Good question. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know.
I'm
Oh,
not
what do
sure.
you
Like
think?
for me, it's just the one that like it reflects more about similarities in our culture than in like some
Okay.
divine truth. But I feel like this is somewhat undermined by religious experiences because those seem to be non-cultural events.
That's exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I think. And I think that, but see, that's the thing, because when you talk about cultural, right? Actually, if you trace back certain, like if let's take, you take a symbol, right? So it's about symbolism,
Mhm.
right? A lot of like perennial
Yeah.
philosophy is about symbolism, right? Understanding like symbols, right? But these symbols, you can almost always, if you actually like you can trace them through so many different, like, through many different cultures, right?
Mm.
Because you find them mapped, right? Like you can find them in, like, um I mean, from all around the world, right? Like you could find the same symbol, right, in like indigenous American, like, religion, right? And you can find it in, like, Chinese philosophy. It's just it they're everywhere. It's just a
Right.
question of
Yeah.
actually like doing the work, right? And like seeing how they manifest, right? Or how they are expressed in different like philosophies, right? So I don't know, because then you could just say, well, so I think cultures just overlap. Like there's always an overlap, right?
Hmm.
They're not so like distinct. Like you can't say, oh, they're completely different, you know? Because
Mm.
there's always something that connects us.
Yeah, makes
Do you know what
sense.
I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm,
Mm.
I don't understand.
Okay. On to
Yeah.
my next question. So since we've chatted a
Okay.
bit about like religious experiences and stuff, do you think faith is
Yeah.
inherently irrational, or can it still coexist with some of the evidentialist standards of something like science?
Hmm. But who said faith is irrational?
I mean, like in general, people usually think of faith as being in opposition to rationality, but do you think faith could be
Yeah.
rational then?
Yeah, I mean, in general, you're right, right? People, it's always the science versus religion, right? Science versus
Yeah,
religion.
yeah.
That's like the constant. But it's funny because you will find, and I'm not that well versed in this, but you'll find science within, like, I'll give you an example. Okay, so you could take a verse from the Quran, right? And I want to be specific, but the verse is not coming to me right now, the number.
Okay.
But it talks about basically it's talking about the way in which the solar system is formed, right?
Hmm.
Um, and the way that it was revealed, because the Quran was said to have been revealed, right? The way that it was revealed, that specific verse on the way in which the planets are structured, right? The words are structured like the planets. Like it's something that you wouldn't believe, right? Like it's
Okay. Yeah.
almost like the way it's like the reflection, like the words are reflective of like the actual structure of the universe, right? Which is amazing, right? In the way in which like the words are formed and then they kind of go back into the sense. It's incredible.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and I'm really sorry that I can't think of the verse number right now.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
really killing me. Um, but what I mean by that is that like we you find science, right? You find science and math, right? In things that you wouldn't think, right? So
Hmm.
like in terms of like, for example, you find them in like the Quran, which is a holy text, right?
Yeah.
Um, and Yeah, and again, when you think about the like creation stories, right? I mean, you know, it's like we've always been told like don't always take things at face value, right? Like
Mm.
there is meaning, there's a story behind it, right? Things are parables. Like on a surface level, right? The majority like the Bible, right? There's a parable. It's a parable. There's meaning behind it, right? So like, yeah, okay. Oh, so someone would say, oh, how could Moses possibly like part the sea, right?
Yeah.
Um, how could Jesus walk on water? No, I mean maybe he didn't literally walk on water, but he did because in the sense that there is a meaning behind it, right? And I think that's the
Mm.
point. And
Right.
once you're able to understand that, then you can understand that science and religion don't have to be separated, right?
Mm.
But I think that's the point. I think that's the limit of people in general.
Mm.
You know what I
So
mean?
do you think it's important to move past like fundamentalist readings of scripture, which would then directly contradict like established
Yeah,
modern scientific ideas?
yes.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think that is, and I understand it. This all connects back to what I was saying about Chat GPT
Okay.
or Chat AI, right?
Okay.
Um, because it's like we don't want to do the work.
Mm.
Like fundamentally, me included, like sometimes you just want to be lazy, right? And that means
Yeah.
not put, you know what I mean? That means not putting in the effort. Like I don't want to have to sit there and try and understand what was meant by Jesus walking on water. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the problems, is because
Right.
if we don't go beyond it, then we're always going to think there's a contradiction between science and religion when there isn't.
Mm. Yeah. I think it's also important to see that science itself isn't like this stable construct, but science itself is also ever changing, just as
That's
like
right.
religion is constantly being reinterpreted and shaped by new cultural ideas and seen in new
That's right.
lights.
Look at quantum physics.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some concepts in quantum physics that are like, for me, they're like religious. I don't know,
Yeah,
like
I
quantum
agree.
entanglement. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things that, um, and I think quantum physics is also a key, like a lens through which I think people should try and read or understand religion.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like go
Mm.
to the micro, like go into detail. When you go into details, when you start digging, you know, and that goes back to the symbol, that's when things reveal themselves to you,
Mm. So as you said, it
you know?
was not just finding science in religion, but finding religion in science as well.
Yeah, exactly. Finding
Mm.
religion in science. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember there was a point, and I wish I could, tell you more about it, but there was a point where I was finding connections like with like covalent bonding and like
Okay.
certain religious concepts. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Um, and like atoms, right? And so there's a truth to it. There's a truth to it. But at the end of the day, if you believe, right, that everything comes from one source, then that comes from there too, right? So
Hmm.
they're going to overlap. They are going to, you know, they're
Yeah.
going to connect. You're going to be able to
Yes.
connect certain like scientific concepts with like faith-based concepts.
I
Okay,
think
Benjamin,
this is
I've talked
also,
too much. Now it's your turn.
yeah, I think a lot of famous scientists were also religious, like Einstein, for example, but also like the person who came up with the Big Bang Theory was actually a Catholic priest, apparently. So that was certainly quite interesting. Like one of the biggest
That's it.
scientific theories made by someone who's like devoutly religious. Um,
Yeah, yeah. And people don't know that, right? People don't think that
yeah.
because people are stuck on like, and I don't mean to sound like preachy, maybe I am sounding a bit preachy, but I think that, people are really stuck on this division,
Right.
right? Where really it's like, no, you like trust me, you'll find connections, you'll find overlap. And when you do,
Mm.
it's like it's incredible because then you're like, wow.
Yeah.
You're like it's amazing. Like where did this how how does this work? Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, you're right. Einstein was definitely um I don't know, there's a famous quote where he says something about God, but what it
Mm.
was.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um okay. Any other any other question?
I noticed that you also looked into like literature and like philosophy of literature. So
Hmm.
I want to ask, like, what do you think is the philosophical significance of literature?
The philosophical significance of literature. That's a good. I'm like, okay. Can you the philosophical significance? I mean, literature is philosophy. Like philosophy is literature. I mean, um, do you mean like when you're talking about literature, though? Are you talking about like poems? Are you talking
Yeah.
about?
like fiction writing
But
or
I have to
poems.
be honest with you. I'm not a fiction like reader
Oh, okay.
or yeah, that's not something that I mean, I was, you know what I mean? I read a lot more nonfiction, but that's just because
Right. Yeah.
I read a lot of like religion and philosophy of religion books. Um
Hmm.
but I mean poetry is yeah. Poetry is also like a form of I was going to say a form of worship, but you're trying to get away from that conversation. I keep going back to
Oh,
religion.
it's okay. Yeah.
I I keep going back to religion and yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure to be honest, I'm not sure I understood the question. I'm not gonna lie, Benjamin. I'm not sure I
Oh,
understood. I don't know. Like, what do you want from the answer? What would you like
like
me to explore?
explore in what ways poetry can be interesting from like a philosophical perspective.
Well, I mean, it depends, like, okay, let's look at poetry. Okay, you know what? Let's look at haikus. That's like a classic example, right?
Hmm.
So haikus were usually like, um, a lot of the times they were based on like Buddhist thoughts, right?
Hmm.
And I think a lot, poetry is a way of condensing certain concepts, right? Like condensing and restricting certain concepts in a way that brings like music almost to a reader, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, I think that I'll give you another example. So in like medieval Arabic poetry, right? Or even post like pre-Islamic, post-Islamic poetry, there's a certain style they're called ghazal, right? And it's a style of poetry that's almost like it's like a song, but they would use these poems to kind of talk about love, right? But the thing
Mm.
that made these poems so interesting is that they can talk about love between like two people, okay? But they can also be about love for God, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so it's again, how do you read it, right? Because you can read it on the level of like, this is a poem about love between two people, right? But it's also a poem about lover and beloved, right? The lover, right? And the beloved being
Mm.
God, right? And it can be read as the lover, right? Writing about the beloved, who is a person, right? But through that person, they experience God.
Mm. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like it's almost like, you're always going to find certain concepts, certain philosophical concepts, right? Or certain concepts, you will find them within poetry. It's just poetry is done in a way that it it accesses a certain um element of a human being, which like maybe just prose is not going to do. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Like
I
through
see.
rhythm,
Yeah.
there's also something about that, right? Like rhythm, metric, right? And how that appeals to like to the
Mm.
human mind and body.
Yeah. I think the sonic quality of poetry is certainly like the most
The
important
sonnet.
part of it, in that like alliteration
Shakespeare
as
was a
well.
mystic.
Yeah.
Now,
Like
what did you say, Benjamin?
I just think like the auditory like nature of poetry is what
Yeah,
distinguishes it from like other forms of writing.
yeah, absolutely.
Um yeah, and it's I guess like a lot of religious like hymns or like songs or poems. So
Yes, exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And so also, going back, I was talking about the like these ghazals, right?
right.
You'll find that a lot of were put to music. A lot of them were put to
Mm,
music. And then they became like popular songs, right? That are still listened to today. Like, so you'll find these songs like in like like in the Arab world, like in the Middle East, that we still
mhm,
listen to, right? And we sing to them, right? And we understand them to mean like, oh, it's about love, right? It's about
mhm,
love. But then when you kind of like you dig a bit deeper, right? Then you're like, oh, maybe it's actually about God. It's about like
mm.
how I feel towards God and my love for God, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Mm. So here
and
there
and
seems to
that's
be like
yeah,
a divide between like reader interpretation and maybe like authorial intention. So do you
perhaps, yeah.
think do you think authorial intent is decisive for text meaning, or does reader response dominate in literary interpretation?
Such a good question. That's such a good question. That's a really good question. You know what? I think it's, I guess it's how I don't know. How would you answer it? Because I guess it's the way in which we interpret it. But would we arrive to certain interpretations if the author hadn't written it with a certain intent? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, for like the example you gave, maybe the author only intended for like the love between people meaning, but then the love for God meaning is something that people have just like sort of like
Or
mapped onto a poem.
that they've mapped onto it?
Yeah,
Or was it the opposite?
yeah.
Or was it the opposite? And at the end of the day, does it matter? I mean, I don't know, right?
Mm. Do you think there is any kind of moral responsibility that readers have to try and preserve the original authorial intent and to not try and interpret it in a way that's completely different to what the author actually meant? Like, is there kind of responsibility there, or do you think readers should have the freedom to do what they like with a text once it's been created?
You know, I feel like if I say the first, I sound like so what's the word? Like, oh no, my dog's gonna bark. Very like rigid. But
Okay,
I think that the problem with just relying on however you interpret, I think that you run the risk of just like losing the actual like message within.
right.
Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so it's almost like, when we read, I guess it's like I guess that's one of the issues that you could have with like exegesis, you know what I mean? Because it's
Mhm.
like however you interpret a text, right? Um, and that might not necessarily be the right way. And then the way that you've interpreted it, then you share that with others, and then it just kind of,
Mm.
you know,
Right.
you know what I mean? Sorry, Benjamin, about my dog. Maybe you want to cut this out of the video.
No, it's okay. Um, and also
Yeah.
linking to this idea of like moral obligation when it comes to readership, do you think readers owe any obligations to like morally problematic texts or authors?
Well, what do you mean by having an obligation? Like, what do you mean by that?
Like, should readers stop reading texts written by authors that are like immoral people, or like try to reinterpret like texts that promote immoral messages such that they are less immoral in their messaging, or like should they just leave them as is? Is there any duty to change anything about the way we
Oh,
approach these texts?
huh. That's what you made me think of, and I don't know if this is actually answering your question, but when
Okay,
you
yeah.
said that, you made me think of, have you ever heard of the Satanic verses?
heard of them, but don't know much.
Look it up. But it's interesting because they this text by Salman Rushdie
Mhm.
was banned, like banned
Okay.
across meant like most Muslim majority countries. Like it was absolutely you
Okay.
couldn't, and if you were found with that book, like you'd go to prison. Like it was bad, right? Like you could not
Okay.
have a copy of this text because it was considered like immoral, basically, right? It was
Hmm.
considered going against the religion, and it was like a way, it's like blasphemy, basically, right? It was
Right.
considered blasphemous. But the truth is that this text, I actually haven't read it. I want to read it. It like came up again in my like studying realm the other like recently.
Hmm.
But the truth is that there's a lot depending on how you read it or your understanding before you read that text, right? It could really add to your understanding of certain verses in like the Quran,
Okay.
which is like the holy book, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so, but I think that it would be important for people to read it, right? I think it would be important for people to read it. And the fact that it was banned, it, I wonder like what was the fear, right? Like what was the fear behind this book, you know?
Mm.
I don't know. Did you Google it? Did you find
Yeah,
anything?
I
What does it
just
say?
Googled it. It says it's just perceived as blasphemy and even motivated Islamic extremist bombings, killings, and riots.
I okay, I don't know about that part.
Yeah.
I don't know
So
about
maybe they
that
were
part.
scared of just like the unrest that followed from it.
Yeah.
Like, hmm.
Yeah. But
But I
it's
think
interesting.
censorship is an
Yeah.
interesting issue.
I
Like,
think
should people have the
censorship.
right to censor works?
Yeah. Right. Are you asking me? No, that's a good question.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think
Okay.
I no, absolutely. No. But it's like it's like why should we censor people at the end of the
Hmm.
day, you know?
Right.
Although there's some people in the world that should be I, I say this like, wait a minute, I'm not gonna say who, but there are certain people that should be censored.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm changing color. Um, but yeah, I don't know if this kind of Benjamin, if that kind of answers your question, but that's what it made me think of when you said that about like
Yeah, yeah.
reading texts that are considered like immoral, right? So
Mhm.
like yeah, so the satanic verses I think is the perfect is one of the like perfect examples of a text that was considered immoral because it was considered blasphemous, but ultimately
Yes.
it probably has like some gems in there. There's always gems to be found,
Mm,
right?
I guess. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Even in like very unlikely texts that you'd be like, maybe like a book on like demonology or a book on like Satanism. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
there's gonna be something that is gonna be of interest or that could
Mm,
help.
yeah. I think like the historical value of certain texts alone is something of interest.
Yeah.
Um,
Also.
like reading Mein Kampf, like arguably
Yeah.
like there's nothing of real value in there, but then like the fact that this is such a monumental like work that had such a large impact, albeit very negative. Like I think it's certainly
Yeah.
interesting to look into.
I think so. I agree with you. I think that we shouldn't like necessarily like undervalue certain certain texts that were considered like or are problematic,
Hmm.
right? Because that's how we get a wider range like or a wider understanding, right,
Yes.
of certain things, you know what I mean? um so yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. What
Mm.
do you
I
think
guess
about
tying
censorship?
back to like the problem of evil discussion, like
Yeah,
I think we can only appreciate like morally good texts when we have like these immoral texts to like compare them
absolutely.
against.
Yeah,
Like So I
Yeah.
guess that's just a further layer of like the problem of evil debate, maybe.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think it goes back to that very basic concept, but it's a basic concept that has, in my opinion, so much truth to it. It's like you can't know one without the other,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, again, it's like, how do I know what good is if I don't know what bad is? I have to know what it's the only way, right? Because then everything
Hmm.
would be good, and then I wouldn't even know what good is,
Yes.
right? Because it would just be this thing, you know?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, sorry about my
So yeah, it's okay.
white
So
my white.
yeah, those are all of my questions for today.
Well,
So thank you.
you had some really good questions, Benjamin. I was a
Yeah.
bit put under the what's that expression when you're like, I don't know how to answer this.
Oh,
Anyway, I hope that I, contributed in some way.
yeah, yeah, you did.
Um, and that like,
Yeah, thank you so much
oh,
for your time and your
you're
insights.
welcome. Thanks so
Yes.
much. And yeah.